Latest 1:15 p.m. Up for the Midlands North West constituency. Luke Ming Flanagan has commended the local women who canvassed for yes, and welcomed Roscommon's apparent strong yes vote based on tallies. "I'm absolutely delighted with the people of Roscommon," he said. "We were put down as conservative. We were never conservative. We are just complicated, but today, after an awful lot of work by a massive amount of women I'd never met before, the result is stunning. I'm so proud. It was probably the hardest place you could go out and look for a yes vote. It's inspiring." He called on the yes canvassers to stay involved in local politics, and to unseat sitting councillors. "To those ladies and girls who campaigned for yes, you're a bloody inspiration. Fair dues to you. I am so happy today." Meanwhile, Labour's Joan Burton has said the sheer numbers who voted in the referendum was one of the best aspects of the campaign. Speaking in Dublin West, she said it's roughly 75% in favour of repeal, like much of Dublin. Deputy Burton added she believed many of those on the no side really failed to show compassion about the real-life, lived experiences of an awful lot of families and particularly of women. She welcomed the removal of posters showing fetuses, which has already begun. "Women are going to go on making lots of babies, but now they have choices. The person I would salute today is Mary Robinson. She was a leading campaigner in 1983 against inserting the Eighth Amendment in the Constitution. I don't know where she is today, but she set a tone for change which we have seen now develop. It's a great day for Ireland." 1:05 p.m. MacDonald and Howlin call for abortion legislation before autumn. Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou MacDonald and Labour counterpart Brendan Howlin have insisted there is no reason for the government to delay planned post-referendum abortion laws any longer and to introduce the new rules by the end of summer, writes Fiatra O'Sianith and Elaine Laughlin. The two opposition leaders said the legislation should be fast-tracked due to the scale of public support for the yes campaign in the referendum and in order to avoid a general election being called before the new law is passed. Health Minister Simon Harris told reporters at the RDS Count Centre today that he will bring the 12-week unrestricted abortion access legislation to Cabinet on Tuesday, before drafting the law over the summer months and bringing it to the Dáil and Senate in the autumn. However, speaking to the Irish Examiner at the same Count Centre, Ms MacDonald and Mr Howlin said there is no reason for any delay. "Can I say, given the fact the people have now spoken, those who wished not to see a referendum happen at all, I think now need to just reconcile themselves with the considered and decided position of the people, and we need to legislate and we need to do so not in haste but certainly not any delay. I personally think there is no reason why we can't move quite speedily," she said when asked about an October deadline. "This legislation framework must be the most scrutinised in Irish history. There's been an entire 8 weeks in around the parameters of it, so I see no reason for a delay. I see no reason to act, particularly as this issue is one that has been marked historically by horrific delay and cowardice, frankly, by the Irish political class," Ms MacDonald said. Mr Howlin separately said he also wants to see the abortion law passed before the end of the summer due to the fragility of the confidence and supply minority government. "Everybody voted with a very clear view of what was going to be enacted. We now have an obligation as speedily as we can to make sure it is enacted. This should not be rode into any general election campaign, and we now have an obligation as legislators to make this the law of the land," he said. Thanks to medical experts like Dr. Boylan for everything. We have matured as a country and we are saying to our women that we cherish you, we don't want to banish you. As a state we have stepped out of the shadows. But at Fianna Fáil parliamentary party will still be allowed free vote, in line with position since 2013. revolution. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar has said that the resounding yes vote to repeal the Eighth Amendment is a culmination of a quiet revolution over the last 10 or 20 years, writes Juno McEnroe. He also praised the brave women and men of Ireland who he said had told their stories and had the most influence on the vote. Speaking as counting continued across the country, Mr. Varadkar said that the large yes vote, estimated at over 68% by exit polls, had given the government a mandate now to change the laws. He said he hoped the government could reform the abortion laws now before the end of the year. Many brave women and men who told their personal stories on how the Eighth Amendment impacted on them. The Taoiseach thanked the Citizens' Assembly for its work on the constitutional assessment over long weekends, as well as the Oireachtas Committee and his members who worked on the reforms proposals. He added that events over the last few years had resulted in the change backed by voters. It has allowed us a nation to come of age. Mr. Varadkar told Root from his constituency count centre in Dublin West. He also said that the majority yes vote would not have happened without the drawn-out political process and work of the two groups. The result shows that the process and politics can work. The culmination of a quiet revolution, says a campaign folio of 2018. Meanwhile, Labour leader Brendan Howlin has called on people to celebrate the result of the referendum, which he said has liberated Ireland. Writes Elaine Laughlin, "People were determined to make a difference and I think it's truly historic," he said, arriving into Dublin's RDS Count Centre. "I know that people said that we shouldn't be celebrating, but I think we should celebrate today because after 30 years we have taken this burden off women. We have made them full citizens in this republic so that their needs are catered for here. We don't export them anymore. That really is a joyous time," said Mr. Howlin, who voted against the Eighth Amendment as a senator in 1983. He said he didn't believe that he would see such a resounding change in this lifetime. Mr. Howlin, "Everybody felt in the last couple of weeks in particular that there was a very strong momentum. I said that I wouldn't be definitive until I test the most conservative parts of my own constituency. A week before polling I did that, and I was very confident then. This is a liberation for Ireland and I think it sends a signal to everybody and excitement for everybody in this country," he said. The view expressed by the people is now so clear that no TD or senator should be obstructive in legislating for the people's will. 12:20 p.m. Take our hand. Simon Harris reaches out to women in crisis pregnancy, reflecting on an apparent landslide yes vote. Health Minister Simon Harris said this afternoon, "Today is a hugely significant day for our country," writes Elaine Laughlin. "The people of Ireland have clearly thought about this issue at great length and for a significant period of time. And now they have answered that question in a resounding manner," he said. "They have said they want to live in a country that treats women with compassion. Under the Eighth Amendment, women in crisis pregnancy have been told to take the plane or take the boat. Today we tell them, take our hand." Arriving at the RDS Count Centre, Health Minister Simon Harris says he will bring a memo to Cabinet on Tuesday to draft legislation on abortion. Laughlin picked at twitter.com/Vay2Oijak, Irish Examiner, @Irish Examiner, May 26, 2018. As tallies show a massive landslide win in the referendum to repeal the Eighth, the Health Minister said he will now bring a memo to Cabinet on Tuesday to allow him press ahead with drafting new legislation on abortion. Mr. Harris said he has always believed that Irish people are innately decadent and compassionate, and they obviously voted with those traits to the fore in referendum. There were emotional scenes as Together for Yes organizers arrived at the RDS this morning. Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou McDonald, Minister Catherine Zappone and Mr. Harris, as well as a number of other politicians from across the political divide, have also made their way to the count. Arriving at the count, Mr. Harris said, "Today is a hugely significant day for our country. The people of Ireland have clearly thought about this issue at great lengths and for a significant period of time, and now they have answered that question, and they have answered it in a resounding manner. They have said that they want to live in a country that treats women with compassion." The official result is due to be announced in Dublin Castle this afternoon. However, strong turnout, which is expected to see the yes side win by a considerable margin, means Mr. Harris is confident he can now get legislation across the line in the coming months. I think the people have voted in such significant numbers, huge turnouts right across this country, across the political spectrum, across societal spectrum. People have voted to say yes, and I believe that gives me a mandate now to introduce the legislation, which I published in advance of this referendum. It's not government legislation, it's legislation that a huge amount of people, including my colleague Kate O'Connell, put a huge amount of work into on a cross-party basis. It's one that has had legal and medical input, and we have had a campaign where civil society and Together for Yes have been to the fore of. Of course, people in the Oireachtas have the right to have their views known, but I certainly think that those of in the Oireachtas, and those bosses, are the people of Ireland, and they have spoken very, very quickly. I hope on Tuesday to go to government and ask the government for permission to draft legislation. As you know, I have published the heads of the bill, and they have been well debated by both sides of this campaign, and people knew about them when they voted on this issue. So I hope to ask the government on Tuesday to provide permission for me to draft. I hope the drafting could take place over the summer months with a view to trying to introduce legislation in the Oireachtas in the autumn session, he said. Update 12:10 p.m. Social Protection Minister Regina Doherty said, "The huge challenge for us now is to recognise the fears that people who voted no have, and to ensure those fears never, ever get realised." She referred to the supports we need to put in for people who are in crisis pregnancy, the prevention measures we need to put in, including education in our schools and free contraception to ensure we reduce the need for women to have terminations. She said she was looking forward to getting the legislation published. Taoiseach Simon Coveney says Ireland has made very powerful decision for change. Speaking from City Hall in Cork, Mr. Coveney said, "Sometimes democracy is powerful, and yesterday was one of those days." He said it was a huge step forward, and will now ensure that a compassionate and appropriate policy will be in place. "I think there will be very few people in the Dáil who will try to frustrate what is the clear will of the vast majority of the people in Ireland who want to see the government following through on its commitment." Taoiseach Simon Coveney, yes, vote on all of pic.twitter.com/uxip72 John Williams @WilliamsJohn, May 26, 2018. Mr. Coveney said that by the time the Dáil breaks for the summer, around the end of the second week in July, the clear heads of the legislation should be ready. With the cooperation of opposition parties, he said the government could, hopefully, have the legislation passed by the end of the year. "It takes time to move through the different phases to make sure we get it right. It's important we do that. We are talking about lives here and supporting women and recognizing the magnitude of the decision to terminate a pregnancy in Ireland. These are really serious issues. There was a big fear amongst some people that we would see Dublin make one decision, and the rest of the country make another, and that we would see a really divisive debate, even after it had passed. We haven't seen that. What we've seen is a huge amount of undecided people knowing they could no longer accept the status quo because they have heard the stories that resulted from the status quo. We have consensus across the country, and we don't have an urban-rural divide, and this will allow politicians to put together really comprehensive legislation that protects women properly for the first time in Ireland." Taoiseach Simon Coveney says Ireland has made powerful decision for a change, and there's been a strong yes vote in urban and rural areas. Murphy 5, May 26, 2018. Minister for Housing Owen Murphy, Dublin Bay South, said, "I'm overwhelmed a bit, to be honest. It was a phenomenal result. I wasn't expecting it to be such a convincing yes result as what it looks like from the tallies in my own constituency here in Dublin Bay South. Some are looking like 80% in favour of repealing the 8th Amendment. Counting continues in Dublin's RDS. In Dublin Bay South, the yes vote is on 78% with 55% of boxes tallied. Laughlin.twitter.com/nixlaubibsecum, Irish Examiner, @Irish Examiner, May 26, 2018. At the Count Centre in the RDS, he said, "We were very clear in putting this to the country, on what we wanted to come after that if there was a yes vote, in terms of the legislation. We have to move forward now expeditiously with that legislation, but we have to take the necessary care with it to make sure we get it right backways. This will be the new law of the land." He said there should now be no unnecessary delays in bringing the legislation forward. Fine Gael's Helen McIndy, Meath East, agreed it was overwhelming. "I couldn't be prouder. There were tears last night, tears this morning, and I'm finding it hard to hold them back right now doing the tallying. It's a day for us to be proud. I'm shocked at the overall result. Well, canvassing, I always thought it would be 60% to 40% for yes, but I wasn't sure that would transpire in the result. But it has." Campaigners and politicians in favour of removing the ban on abortion in Ireland have been welcoming a rout in Irish Times exit polls which indicated a 69 to 31% and 68 to 32% vote in favour of repealing the 8th. Yes voters Niamh Brennan and Catriona O'Rourke, both from Finglas, during the abortion referendum count in the RDS, Dublin. Picture, Collins. The three co-directors of the Together for Yes campaign have said today that dignity and decency have won out. A.L.B. Smith, co-director, said, "If exit polls are reflected in the official vote count later today, this will be a moment of profound change in Ireland's social history, a moment when the nation collectively stood up for women and for their health care, and voted for constitutional change. Ours was an evidence-led campaign," said campaign co-director Grain Griffin. "Every step we took, every campaign action, every single initiative we undertook was informed by the fact that we were listening to people at the doors, and in local communities, had access to research about where the people were at and what they wanted. Ireland has woken to a new dawn today, and we are now a country that is a little more compassionate, more caring and more kind." Dr. Peter Boylan during the abortion referendum count in the RDS, Dublin. Photo Gareth Cheney Collins. Arriving at the RDS Count Centre in Dublin, vocal Yes campaigner Dr. Peter Boylan said he was very relieved, and felt vindicated. "It's a wonderful day for Irish women," he said. The chairman of the Institute of Obstetricians and Gynecologists said he wanted to thank and pay particular tribute to the women who told their stories so bravely, and said it was a watershed moment for Ireland. Peter Boylan, "This is a watershed moment for Ireland. Democracy in action. It's looking like we will make history tomorrow," he wrote on social media website Twitter. "Thank you to everyone who voted today. Democracy in action. It's looking like we will make history tomorrow." Saying the government should now move quickly to introduce the planned 12 weeks unrestricted abortion laws in the event of a yes vote, Mr. Martin said, "With exit polls published, it looks like important though that we respect and count every vote. If the exit polls are accurate, the view of our republic is clear, and we as an electors should move efficiently to enact the will of our people. With exit polls published, it looks like important though that we respect and count every vote. If the exit polls are accurate, the view of our republic is clear, and we as an electors should move efficiently to enact the will of our people." Michael Martin, at Michael Martin did, May 25, 2018. Meanwhile, in another statement last night, Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou McDonald said simply, "Ireland is changing. I want to thank Sinn Féin members from across Ireland, and all those who campaigned for a yes vote, and for the leadership of the Together for Yes group. This campaign was marked by the women who came forward to share their personal stories of dealing with tragic circumstances. The campaign created a space for Ireland, North and South, to look at the experiences of women, and I believe that we are all better for that. The voices of these women have been heard and can no longer be silenced by guilt or neglected by government. Ireland is changing, and this is evident in the vibrant Yes campaign headed up by women and young people. I want to thank each and everyone who voted and campaigned for Yes, Ms. MacDonald said. Reacting to tonight's Irish Times exit poll, Mayor Luke MacDonald wanted to thank the people who hoped, who dreamed, and thank you all of you who voted. I think we are about to prove we can change it for the better. External Affairs Director Claire Murphy said, "This is a momentous step forward that is long overdue. For decades, Irish women have been forced to travel hundreds of miles to our clinics in England, often alone, at a huge personal and emotional cost. The result, once confirmed, means that the Irish government can bring an end to this suffering, and legislate to provide the care women need at home." Digital Desk.